Good morning.
Good afternoon.
Good evening. Welcome to being here.
Yes,
I'm Ariel.
I'm Shia.
This episode theme is about having well being in uncertain times. It really is uncertain.
Well, you read the title to me before, and I had this thought. It has never not been uncertain times.
Mhm.
It's just uncertain. You don't know what the universe is going to provide or not provide in any given moment. So you can either worry about how the future is going to turn out or get involved in what you're doing in the current moment. It's interesting. Yesterday, Ariel and I drove into New York City. Now, this is being pre recorded. So yesterday was a while ago. But it was my yesterday. We drove into New York City, and Ariel drove because we had been out really late the night before, got very little sleep. We got up early in the morning, and we drove the hour, maybe hour and 45 minutes, depending on traffic, into the city. And then we had to find a parking place. And Ariel was busy driving, and I was busy looking. And sure enough, a parking place materialized. I mean, it was there in a place there are only two spots on this whole block. There's only two places you can park, and one of them was vacant. And it was there for us to get there early enough that we could take a nap before we had to go to our appointment. It was really cool that not worrying about how it was going to turn out because, worrying about it doesn't affect it, but it keeps you occupied in your thoughts so you don't see so well what's right in front of you. And Ariel was busy driving and she didn't see that parking place because she was engaged in her driving, whereas I was engaged in looking. That's all I have to say.
Mm.
I
Well,
hope that's
we
enough.
we can talk more about that in a moment. I see that having well being in this format really has to do with listening and not jumping forward and back. So, as Shia was speaking, I let go of anything. So, of course, I have the memory of what we've done for the last couple of days. And it would have been very easy for me to go off into my recollections or my versions or tweak what he said or agree with what he said. Oh, yes, that's right. Yes, yes, that's right. Instead, I let that go and listened, not to hear if he was right or wrong, not to agree or disagree, just to hear. And that dropped me into being here. And similarly to driving, as we were going into the city, I could worry about what kind of traffic we might hit near the Lincoln Tunnel, because that's generally the pinch point where it gets tight. What lane should I be in? And even parking. Will we find a place on this street? Because it's so much easier and it's about a tenth of the price. So both are fun when you find a place. So I could either drive or I could race forward to, will we find a place? So by the time we got to the area where parking was possible, I was not looking ahead and around the corner as I pulled up to the light. And it was such a lovely surprise when you announced, look, there's a spot, it's available. I had so much well being in that drive because worrying about if you will find a spot only makes you less available while you're driving
Well,
and create stress.
I gotta say, driving with you into the city in really heavy urban traffic, you were brilliant. It wasn't like you were thinking about what to do. It was
Mm-mm.
like the car was an extension of you. So I really appreciated the whole thing, even though we were both tired from spending a very
Yes.
vigorously we went fishing the day before, where we spent 10 hours on a drift boat going down a river
And basically 3 hours each way. So it was a
of
really,
driving. But on those 10 hours, it was
yeah.
all casting. So we were
Yep.
really extended our energy to complete all that. And yet the trip into the city was effortless. And
Well, another thing,
yes,
both the fishing trip
yes,
and the trip into our appointments in the city. One of the things that erodes well-being for people is they start talking to themselves about, oh, why did I schedule these two things so close together? Where it's as if you've made a mistake, where you second guess what you're going to do already anyway. Our
mhm.
cat's like going,
Our
yes,
cat is,
yes,
is having a conversation like that with
yes,
itself,
yes.
since
So
we don't speak cat.
no, so that's one thing, is that it was not relevant why we were going.
That's right.
This is what we scheduled. And I can go about it wholehearted as if it's my idea, or talk to
Well,
myself
well, well. This
about,
this is how you could go about life.
correct.
You see, you can either go about life second guessing your every move, or you can just go for your life as though you're doing it perfectly. And by the way, you are.
And then one other thing, and we can take our first guess.
Yes.
Uh, One of the things I really enjoyed about driving back, the 3 hour drive, we got our, 4.5 hour sleep, and then we drove into the city, was going about driving in a smooth manner.
Mm-hmm.
And we often talk about here, and we spoke about it at a recent Living Made Easy seminar, about slow is smooth
And
and smooth
smooth
is
is fast.
fast. And how I was smoothly changing lanes, and how there was no abrupt. And when I even said to you a couple times, my spatial thing right now, I'm tired. I'm not going to try to change lanes until I'm really clear that it'll be a smooth and easy move.
Mm-hmm.
Where when I'm a little crisper, I can move more directly without it feeling abrupt. So that's just a throw out of ideas. And how about we take our guest?
I think so.
All right. Renee, welcome to being here. And kindly tell people where you're zooming in from.
Hi, I'm zooming in from San Francisco, California this morning, and thanks for having me.
It's nice to have you here.
I'm really struck by how in sync the two of you are, because, well, I always am, for one thing, but also in my family,
I got confused by what you just said, how in sync
yeah.
you really are. Uh, and you said something about yourself, but I couldn't understand.
Oh, in my family, we've had recently had a health crisis, and my husband was not at home. He was in hospital for 6 weeks. So that could have felt like being out of sync because he wasn't here. It didn't always feel like being out of sync, which was interesting and helpful. But now that he's back home, I do find that I'm trying to tune into the adjustments I need to make.
Well, this is very interesting because I was thinking about something about this, which you're talking about. I was thinking about how Ariel and I relate. And I go about what I'm doing, not thinking about how Ariel's going to feel about what I do. I'm not trying to work on our relationship. I'm just doing whatever is up to be done. This morning, I got into deep cleaning the sink area and the counter and the hood over the stove. because it hadn't been cleaned in a long time. And it wasn't that I was doing it so that Ariel didn't have to.
Or so that I would appreciate it when I walked in the room.
It was more just because it was for me something that I looked at and said needs to be done. So I started doing it.
I suspect one of the places where you've been getting lost in a conversation with yourself recently, Renee, is I know something about your husband's illness, and I know that it came on very suddenly, and it was a surprise, and it was he had a bacteria that may have come from his teeth, and it invaded his body really fast, and it became dire before you knew it.
Correct.
And so
Yes.
now he has a recovery period. So, in a certain respect, when you were in the emergency framework of things, you could fully engage. And now you're in the recovery period, which your body is moved out of, and your mind is moved out of that gear that's like handle the emergency. In the triage, you handle the things first, and then you handle the next and the next. And at this point, I wouldn't be surprised if some part of you starts recalling what your husband was like before being ill and saying, oh, I wish he was back to normal already, or I wish he could help me with this, or I wish he had this stamina.
Well, another thing is when it was an emergency, there was no time to complain about anything. You
Yeah,
shake
correct.
your head.
You got to speak about you're smiling at all of this. I know we're
This
being
is
a little hard on you.
right.
No, that's you're spot on with that.
Yeah. And so you see, you have little minor complaints in your thoughts about what he could do or should do, and it's unfair that I have to do it all, and all those little things. Now you're smiling again.
I don't know how to verbally indicate that I'm smiling.
But does
But
that
yes,
sound
yeah,
right?
that's accurate enough that I'm actually
Okay.
grinning when you
You
say that.
ask or you make a statement that Ariel and I seem so in sync. And our in syncness has to do not with what we do, but that we're not picking on each other in our thoughts that we should be doing more or different or better something. So I'm okay with her and she's okay with me. And that's the way it is. But it's not because we're trying to be in sync. Our leaving each other alone in our thoughts allows the other to be magnificent and for both of us to be in sync.
I see.
Because I'm as much as you love Christopher, you pick on him in your thoughts if you're normal.
Oh, absolutely.
But I I suspect if we go back to what we were talking about at the beginning before we called you on, and I know you were listening, you're hard on yourself first. You get distracted by having a conversation with yourself that you should have done something differently. So when we scheduled these two events close together, uh, we had the idea that it was very likely that the fishing trip that we had scheduled got canceled twice due to weather. And this was the time frame that the fishing guide had. And we knew that these two things back to back would be very long and taxing. So when it came to the moment of being tired, what cues up are the potential self recriminations for having done it that way. You will pick on your husband if you pick on yourself. And I suspect that you've been being hard on yourself lately first.
Definitely.
The other thing
Yeah.
is this: you have an idea Yeah, the idea goes like when I lose weight, then I'll be happier and I won't get as befuddled by life. And life circumstances in uncertain times won't phase me as much. So you lost quite a bit of weight. And then the
Yes.
same conversations about your well being and uncertainty show up, even though you've lost the weight. And you were thinking, when I lose the weight, then I'll feel better about myself. You're smiling again.
That's true. I'm smiling because that's very accurate. Yes.
Well, I say you're smiling because, people are listening to this. We're going to have to turn these things into videos
I think we
at some
will.
point
I think we can
in
do
the
that
very near
soon. Maybe
future.
even with this one. Who knows?
Maybe, who knows? Because, like you
We
are
have
so
the
expressive, Renee, as we're talking to you, I can see how what we're saying impacts you and you realize, oh, it's that simple. Oh, the other thing is this. You never know what you don't already know. So the universe shows up newly and you only see the same old, same old. You don't get it yet.
Not yet.
No, good. Then that means nobody else gets it either. So, see, you only know what you know, and what you don't know. Your knowledge base determines what you can recognize in your experience of living. So, if you don't know what a Zubaraf is, if a
I do not.
Zubaraf shows up, you won't even see it.
And if what you're missing is a Zubaraf, you don't even know to
Look
look
for
for a
it.
Zubaraf because you don't know they exist.
And they don't, because I
He
just
just
made
made
that
that name
up.
up. Yeah.
Darn it. I was hoping I'd get to see one.
It's
Well, actually, it exists in a world of well being. So,
Okay.
as you fall into being okay, being you, the way you are in this moment, your life becomes Zuberifical,
That's a good one. I like that.
Zubalicious.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not about getting somewhere, it's about being where you are. The circumstances that are threatening and uncertain times never show up a moment before they do. We were watching some very interesting YouTube videos about giant waves hitting beaches where there were people. And these people were just hanging out in the water, and these giant waves just showed up. And it was interesting to me how these people didn't respond until it was really too late because the waves were upon them. But you could see them coming. There was like tsunami waves. And
Right.
and it was like it was so out of people's reality that there was a danger in it because they were involved with what they were thinking about. And when you think about things, you don't see your universe anymore. You only are in your thoughts about what you're thinking about. So, how to be well in uncertain times is to be where you are, because times have always been uncertain.
I would add one thing as I'm looking at you and out of my recent experience, Renee, and that is to be honest with yourself when you're off kilter or you're upset or not in your full center. Because sometimes, like,
And not make yourself wrong
wrong
for
for
it
it.
when you realize it.
So I think sometimes we like to uptalk ourselves, like, I'm fine. No, I'm fine. And I was talking about it on the last Living Made Easy. I realized the other day I was really upset. And how I realized it was I got out of the car. I drove home. I got out of the car and I opened the door and it had been gotten progressively warmer throughout the day. So I picked up the drink cup that I had with me and I picked up my vest that I had taken off and my light jacket that I had taken off. And as I got ready to close the door, I dropped the vest. and I picked it up and I closed the door and then I got ready to go in and I dropped the jacket and I picked it up. And then as I got in, I dropped them both and I went, I am upset because my ability to handle items and be there and make sure, I mean, it's not a big deal to drape a vest or drape a jacket over your arm. But I was not where I was, and I wasn't in my hands. And then I started to realize, look at what I had resisted or what I wasn't looking at or what I was hiding from myself. It was very, very simple and very subtle and grand in a way. And what was cool about it is I didn't have to wait until I fell down the stairs or broke a toe or had a car accident or dropped a glass to realize that I wasn't fully there. And I have a feeling you don't give yourself permission to look and see, because if you're like us and like everybody I know, being upset is a new version of like a sin.
Right.
Transformed people do not get upset according to the mind, rather than if anything you see without judging completes itself.
Right. Yeah. It's funny. I feel like I don't have anything to say except yep, 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 that's on. Yep, that pretty much that tracks.
Well, look, sweetheart, I think you're doing the right things. See, uh, this is a world full of upset people. Really.
Yes.
The idea of well-being is, for most people, just an idea. And they go from upset to upset, trying to get what they think will make them less upset or happy or satisfied. And occasionally they get it, except that doesn't produce it. You know, you can think, well, look, when I get married, then I'll be happy. So you got married and you were happy, but then it went back to the way it was, which was mostly a complaint that things aren't going the way I'd like. Sound right?
Yeah.
And so it's really about discovering how to be where you are as though it's your idea and you're doing it because you love what you're doing, not because when I get over doing this, then I can get on to the better thing.
You know what's interesting is that when my husband was in hospital and I would, if I spoke with a friend or someone who's supportive of me about life, invariably I got a response of like, I'm so sorry that's happening to you. And it was very focused on like, when this is over, well, when is this going to be over? When's he coming back home? And that kind of thing. And what I realized is that there's this idea that you can't have moments of well-being in times of uncertainty or in crisis. And there were plenty of times of well-being in that. And so that was
Well,
just
let's
something
stop
that I
right
know.
there. Let's stop right there. In those moments of well-being, you were not lost in worrying about Christopher.
You weren't
Correct.
worrying about where it was going and you weren't complaining that it was happening. It was simply a fact.
That's right.
Yes.
So it wasn't a problem.
Yes.
It was just what was, and that was enough. And therefore, well-being could exist. But when you agree or disagree, you throw your world into chaos.
Oh, that's so interesting.
Yes. When you don't like the idea that he's in a hospital, then you're
Right.
upset. When it's only a fact that he's in the hospital now, and he will be there until they feel he's safe to bring him home, then
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
being in knowing that he's well taken care of, and it may not meet your preferences.
Right. Right. And likewise, now I can kind of fiddle with all of the moments between the moments when I can tell that things are good.
Well, look, there are no moments between the moments.
Oh, wait, what?
Because when you're upset, my dear, that's all there is.
But I just created this whole thing where I had it all figured out, and then you said, no, that's not the way it is. I'm
Well,
kidding, but yeah.
I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just saying, when you are in hope of it getting better, chances are it's not.
Right.
But I
And
suspect,
well being does not exist in that moment. See, because then you are not being where you are. You're in hopes of a future turning out better. So you're out of sync with your moment.
I just got that too. That's so interesting.
It's actually
Yeah.
profound.
No, it's like that when you're
Yes, it is
at the
profound.
no, well, yes, yes. It's like when you're at the optometrist or ophthalmologist or whatever it's called, and the lenses are like off and they go click, 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 and then you're like, oh,
I can see.
yeah, yeah,
See, when you're looking through a lens that's far away, you trip over things that are right up front.
yes, yes.
It's interesting. I was doing some work outside on our house where I was spraying a very strong detergent. So I was wearing a pair of goggles so I didn't get any in my eyes. And the lower part of the goggle was opaque. It was a semi clear. And so I noticed that when I was stepping off a ladder, I could potentially miss that bottom step because I couldn't quite see it. And when you're in an upset, it's like you're looking through the lens of the upset, but there's these opaque areas that keep tripping over.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Really a treat talking with you today.
Yes, my dear.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
As and likewise,
Well,
thank
there's
you.
another little piece to this. Your engagement in our seminars over the last bit of time has really been uh, inspirational to me. In that, you see, I was talking about it with Ariel today. Our approach is not psychotherapeutic. It's really about discovering how to live in the current moment. And that takes uh, a dedication, if you will, a dedication to bringing yourself back to the current moment over and over, even when life takes you away and there are disappointments and upsets. It's about bringing yourself back. And you've been doing that, and it's a delight.
Thank you. That is a constant, like what do you call it? That point on your compass, your north, I guess.
Yes.
True North.
Yes.
Yeah, that. That's my north. It's like, just keep bringing it back.
Bring it back to the current moment. And that's right. But you see, here's the thing, it doesn't matter whether you use our approach or any other approach. Eventually, you come to the place where you get yourself upset and you say, this isn't working either. And that's when most
Hmm.
take themselves away, thinking, well, this didn't really work either. But it's the dedication
Yeah.
to you that will pull you into the moment. And, you know, all there is you.
Yeah. Well, and this community has been so helpful, so incredibly dynamic and just and I was talking to my husband about this because I'm going to be coming to a weekend seminar in New Jersey, and um, or did.
Yeah, that's all right. Because
Don't worry about it. We
it,
said this is being
we're,
recorded.
yeah. So you're
Yeah,
not done the weekend in Jersey yet when we're recording.
yeah,
So yeah, you're coming soon.
yeah. And then I was saying, it's really important to me to go because this is the community in which, it's not like, oh, that sounds like you had a really rough time. It's But it's also not like, hey, is everything better? It's like, hi, it's nice to see you. It's very like now.
Well, talking to me, everything is very now because this is, see, that's the thing that gets people so lost in their lives. They think they have an alternative to now,
When
but
really,
this is it, and this
mm,
is all it is, and it ain't going to change. Not in this moment. It may sometime in some future, but if you're complaining about this moment of your life in this moment is a complaint.
when if I step away from my screen for a little while on my computer, I get a screensaver that comes up and does all sorts of wavy things
By default.
by default. And that's what happens when you step away. The complaining about whether or not you like your life this way comes by default, and it becomes between you and what's on the screen, which is whatever's in front of you of your life. And on my version here on my computer screen, they're very beautiful, compelling colors. So you could actually sit here and watch the movements. But I think that's what happens for people too. It's like, oh, yes, I should have gotten up earlier and I should exercise. You start following these lines of thought as if they're real or beautiful or compelling when all you have to do is just like wiggle your mouse a little or tap the key and there you are and you're connect back in.
You answered the question I didn't even know I had just now. Yeah.
Well, thank you. We're
Yeah.
Beautiful.
our job.
Yeah.
So, and thank you for being so here and willing, because I'm sure your questions, our conversation has answered a lot of things for a lot of people.
Yep. So thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, here we go. It's time for our listener feedback spotlight, where we hear from one of our listeners about how transformation has impacted her life or his life.
If you want to learn more about our seminars, any of the upcoming virtual courses, visit transformationmadeeasy.com.
That is transformation made easy, easy.com.
I love it.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Dave. I'm in Winnipeg in Canada. Sometimes I get ahead of myself and I try to rush to produce what I think I need to produce. And transformation has taught me that I can slow down and not worry about getting things done because I always get them done.
Do you want to have well-being with consistency? Connect with people all over the world from the comfort of your own home at Ariel and Shire's lively interactive Living Made Easy virtual seminars. Join any of their 2-hour online events or take a deep dive into the magic of being you at a virtual weekend seminar. Come on, let's connect. Find out more and register at transformationmadeeasy.com.
We have a Living Made Easy 2-hour seminar coming up this Saturday. There is also one on Monday night. And the Tuesday evening for the European community is this Tuesday, the 7th. So if you're listening to this in real time, feel free to join us. And if it's not in real time, if you're getting this from the archives, you can just go to our schedule and look up what's coming up next. Since today is the 1st of October that we'll be releasing this, our newsletter came out today. Our newsletters have videos, it has articles, sometimes blogs from other people, beautiful pictures, inspiring messages and information. So if you're not yet on our newsletter, feel free to sign up. Just go to transformationmadeeasy.com and you can find where the newsletter is and you can make yourself a part of it.
Yes. Then our next weekend seminar, is called Reclaiming Your Sense of Wonder. it's a bilingual version of our seminars. It's going to be done in German and English for the European community, the Switzerland and Germany, the people there that speak German. And it'll be in English as well, because that's all we speak.
This one is virtual.
Right. And it's November 18th and 19th.
So it doesn't matter where you are, anywhere that you are.
Anywhere in the world, you can join us via Zoom.
We often have people even come from the other side of the world for virtual seminars, even though it's happening in the middle of the night, and they've never, ever regretted it.
Right. Then we have the New Beginnings seminar. It's also a virtual seminar. And that'll be January 6th and 7th of 2024. And then Costa Rica.
Costa Rica is happening. We've still had people recently signing up. It is not too late should you wish to join us. However, a weekend seminar with us in this year is a prerequisite. So if you haven't done one with us yet, the Reclaiming Your Sense of Wonder or New Beginnings are a must. Our calendars for 2024, our wall calendar.
Are magnificent. Ariel has taken some just truly magnificent pictures that are a pleasure to be looking at, each one of them. And so your calendar on your wall won't be something that you won't want to look at. The picture will attract you, guaranteed.
2 shout outs very quickly. One is to Kareen here in New Jersey, who suggested this title. And also to Cindy in Virginia, who found us through a local seminar she was doing and has been listening for some time and came recently to a seminar. It was so wonderful to meet you in person. And we love that you found us and have been listening and are
and that you joined us for a Living Made Easy
seminar. It was wonderful. Okay, how about our next guest?
I love it.
All right, Renata, welcome to being here. Tell people where you're zooming in from.
I'm zooming in from Bern, Switzerland.
Welcome.
Well, yes, welcome. What can we do for you today?
So that was very interesting. I listened to all the recording until now.
Mm-hmm.
And so many things just sounded familiar to me. So the one that sticks in my head is that planning so many things on one day and then being at the point where I say, oh, it's just too much, and I'm getting tired and not being in the moment anymore, because so how you described it would be more easier just staying in the moment.
Well, I have come to recognize something though. When you say that it would be easier to just stay in the moment, I don't know. I think sometimes people are so used to having drama and stress, they construct their lives to have drama and stress. So I recognized when we were setting up those 2 events back to back, I said to Shia, shall we do this? Because it will mean this. It's going to be a very long day, a short night, and then driving into the city. There'll be not a lot of sleep and quite a bit of driving time. Do we want to do this? At that moment, we had the choice, yes or no. And whichever we were going to do was going to be wholehearted.
Yeah, so if we said yes, we wouldn't complain that we had to do it as a result of the extra time or driving.
So what if, Renata, instead of, oh God, sometimes I put so much into the day that it's difficult. What if you put so much into the day so that at some point you can say, oh, this is difficult? Meaning, like for instance,
that you prepare your day, including extra, so you can complain
about yourself
and how much you have to do.
Mm-hmm.
As if you have your life wrong.
That sounds very accurate.
Because, let me just flesh it out a little bit more. Sometimes I like to watch morning news shows because I'm interested in the events in our world. Sometimes I realize that I have the potential to watch a morning news show on television or listen to it on my iPhone feed in order to pre-upset or stress me, because that is a comfortable discomfort. And then the things that may be confronting, such as we're working on a new book project, or I don't know how to contact this person, or that turmoil saves me from something else.
Mm. Yeah, I have a lot of time at the moment just to spend, like, yeah, I can decide every moment because we are on vacation at the moment, and sometimes it's so it gets confusing situations because Esther is also on vacation and we spent the day together. And then sometimes it's, yeah, we didn't decide what to do, and we don't want to do the same things, or it's, yeah, sometimes I find it quite a challenge to spend time with no program.
With no structure.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you're still trying to do your life right in relationship.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought about you today because I saw you guys recently on our Living Made Easy seminar, and you looked very lovely together. But what I realize is you're still trying to keep the relationship going rather than allow yourself to be okay being you the way you are, and Esther being okay the way she is. So there's this self-manipulation to do it right in relationship rather than Renata, being Renata doing what she's doing, Esther being Esther doing what she's doing. And when they come together,
sometimes they want to do the same thing together and
exactly,
sometimes not.
Exactly. Later today, I'm going to go out on a little lake, a reservoir, fishing. And Ariel's going to go and find a present for her sister for her birthday. And
it's not because I have that as an obligation, but because that gives me pleasure. And today going to fish would be an obligation. And Shai is not coming shopping with me for a gift because it would be an obligation for him, and fishing is. So one of the things that you may still have is when on quote vacation, there's that internalized pressure idea that you should spend it together because that's what people in relationship do.
Yes.
Rather than fill your batteries, come together and be a full battery.
Yeah. Today we had a conversation about eating because I have to gain weight at the moment. So I really have to eat often in the day.
I'm
and
sorry.
Sometimes Esther is, yeah, like not comfortable with eating with me because she doesn't feel to eat yet. So right. we just made the arrangement that everyone is eating when she needs to eat in the day. We just decided this today. And when there is some point where we both say, oh, now we want to cook something and eat together, then we eat together.
I love that. That is so smart and so lovely because you both have different body types and different needs. But in the background is the internalized idea that families who play together stay together, or families who really care and love about each other will sit down and have a meal together and they will talk, and they, you have pictures of what the right way to go about your life is. And one of the things that Shia often says to me is you can't do it wrong. You cannot do your life wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And you have these internalized standards that you pit yourself against.
Yeah, this is an interesting idea. You cannot do your life wrong because you get told that I got told that from when I was small, that I do this wrong and that wrong. And
Well, of course you did. That's how you socialize kids. You don't want them throwing something across the room. You tell them that that's wrong. It's not like it's.
You cannot blame the people in your past for the way you behave in this moment. I mean, you can, but then you'll be stuck with that behavior, which you may not particularly like forever. You stop being responsible for what you're doing. You stop blaming others for what you do or say. It's just, this is the way.
Yeah, but it's somehow it feels good freeing myself from when we decided this today that just I eat when I need to eat and Esther eats when she needs to eat.
That's
It was
great.
such a freeing idea somehow.
Yes.
Yeah.
But good for you.
And at some point, that idea, you may discover that you find it more lively to modify it or look at it again. Like you may want to have snacks and time your major meal so that you can be with her on some days because it would give you pleasure.
Unless you're in the midst of a fight and eating separately is a way of expressing the fight.
Yes, that can be also the case. Yeah.
Yeah. So you have to bring awareness to
what is
the way you're going about it.
A opening, expansive idea in this moment and today, on another day, maybe something that is moving you apart as opposed to together, because it's really about looking and being honest in the moment.
Yeah, we need to be flexible also with these. But yeah, today it felt freeing making this decision. Perhaps tomorrow it's not the right decision again.
Well, that's the thing, choice is an ever-present, in each moment, possibility. You look and you see what is true for you in the moment. Decisions are about not looking at certain areas of your life. Like I'm done with that. That's a decision.
I'm done with eating with Esther. I'm going to eat when I want. That's a decision.
Let's see. Shall we eat together? Or is it
what's your time? How do you feel? You get, and it's also really good to not encourage her to overeat because her body type is different. Ultimately, she would be unhappy.
Yes. And we want to be happy together.
There you go.
There you have it.
Awesome.
Well, thank you so much for being with us.
Really, really, really a treat.
Thank you.
Yes.
I liked it.
Me too. Wow, I just feel like we touched on so many different things today with Renata and with Renee. So if you enjoyed this podcast, feel free to share it with your friends or leave a review. I was thinking about, Cindy, that if somebody who had a podcast had reached out to us to be on
their podcast,
she would never have known about it. So, if you know people who should know about this show, feel free to introduce us to them,
or them to
us, so that we can take care of people in the world. Also, if you feel to do it, then thanks in advance. And if you don't pick on yourself.
Okay.
You can't do your life wrong.
Next week's podcast.
The episode title is
Refresh Your Curiosity.
We'll be back next week.
So come on back.
And don't miss being here.